Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Mirabile, and I am chair of the Women's Initiative at Weber Gallagher. I really want to welcome everyone to our program today. I think you're going to enjoy it. This is our first Women's Initiative event of 2019, and it's a celebration of Women's History Month. Today, we're excited to have Uneeka Jay with us. Uneeka is an author, motivational speaker, and CEO of Rewrite 365. Rewrite 365 is a training and performance improvement firm that works with clients to define, achieve, and sustain breakthroughs in results. She is the founder of Lead Her Academy, a program designed to provide the necessary skills to women who desire to move into a leadership position. She also founded She Rewrites, a program focused on helping women live their best life regardless of their past. Uneeka has more than 20 years of training, quality, and customer retention experience, and over a decade of senior executive leadership in corporations with annual revenues up to $1 billion. Ms. Jay is a highly sought-after keynote and workshop leader. Not only are her tasks inspirational and motivational, but they are also transformational, powerfully practical, and refreshingly relevant. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Uneeka Jay.
How are you guys doing? All right, hopefully you can hear me. I know we may be having some technical difficulties from a microphone perspective, but one thing I have never been accused of is being quiet. So this should work out just fine. Every time they read my bio when I go somewhere, I'm always like in the back going, who are they talking about? That's me? Okay, cool beans. I want to talk to you today about getting plugged in and powered up, because I think that's so critical. And I know we have some gentlemen in the room. I heard that you guys are going to be sneaking in and spying on what we were doing down here in this lower level today. And so some nuggets may be good for you, but I came really to speak specifically to women around some of the initiatives that we can do to make sure that we're moving vision forward, all right, and how we can stick together to even do that. And so when I think about the opportunity, when I got the call or the email actually to come in, it was right on the tail end of me speaking at another conference that was women who were raising money for small businesses, right? And so when I got the call, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'll get to go and speak, and I started to Google the law firm, get some understanding about who you guys were, and, get myself prepared to come in and chat with you this evening. How many of you have an iPhone? Because I just need to know who my friends are. Fantastic. So those of you that don't, I apologize. I understand the difficulties you have. No, I'm just playing. I should actually probably work for Apple because I'm always talking about it. So here's my iPhone, right? It's in a case, although it's already been cracked, but it's in a case. So I don't crack it. What's this part? My charger. Now, this charger, I got a longer charger so I can have more accessibility, right? I take this charger and I plug this charger into here. I plug it into a box or something, and I plug it into the wall, right? What happens if I use this charger? And what's your name? You without the apple. Lisa. And Lisa, we met in the bathroom, right? So I like meetings. Ladies, it's a great place to meet in the bathroom. Great things go down in there. So anyway, Lisa was helping me with my wardrobe, or telling me, how I looked, and gave me some, she encouraged me while I was in the bathroom checking out everything that I destroyed in the Uber. But anyway, if I tried to take this charger and plug it into Lisa's phone, what's going to happen? What'd you say? Why? It's not compatible. Let me tell you what we do. We plug into things that are not compatible, and then we wonder why we're running around on empty. We plug into things that are not creative for us, and then we wonder why we're running around on empty. Worse yet, this is an actual Apple charger, right? I got this charger. I got the longer one. I ordered it. I actually bought it from the Apple store. But how many of you know I can go to Sunoco, and they have these little orange ones, green ones, purple ones. I can get all types of chargers for this phone. It has the same connector on the end, which gives me the thought process that it's connecting, that it's going to charge what I need to have charged up until the point where it says this device is not supported by your phone, right? That's the second thing I want to talk to you today about. I want to talk to you about thinking you're plugged into the right thing when you're not plugged into the right thing. When you grab something that's aftermarket. Aftermarket, sometimes when we grab those things, that comes from our pride, our arrogance, and our insecurity. And so we will grab things, plug them in, and think we're doing the right thing, think we have the right things for us to be powered up, and then we wonder why our battery is always looking like it's about to actually stop, about to stop. This gives me a little indication at the top. It lets me know where I stand. It lets me know how charged I am. It lets me know how much life is left in this phone. Because while my whole entire life is in this phone, it will not function without it being charged. So when we talk about connecting and powering up, I want to make sure that you're plugged into, one, the right things, that you don't have an imposter that you're plugged into. Sometimes we're plugged into jobs we don't want. We're plugged into relationships, careers, cities. We're plugged into all types of things that are actually imposters, and then we wonder why we're constantly running on trying to run on a dead battery. And so when we think about this, the first part, actually plugging in, right? This, we talked about the plug. Plugging into what matters most. What matters most? I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to think about the most important person in your life. Or the most important people. Like if you have kids, you can't necessarily volunteer one as tribute as being the most important. But think about the most important people in your life. Now I want you to pause. I want you to think. Do they know that they're the most important people in your life? Do your actions, your tasks, your activities, do they point to the direction that they're the most important thing in your life? Are your words aligned in a manner that says to them that they're the most important thing in your life? Because oftentimes I can tell you, I go across this country and I come into rooms similar to this one and I have conversations with women. And what I find, and with men as well, what I find is that oftentimes what we're doing day in and day out, the tasks and activities that we're doing, are not necessarily aligned with the things that matter most to us. How many of you ever seen the movie Mr. Deeds? I think it's Mr. Deeds, where they have this whole stock thing, and they're in this stock meeting, and he says, "What did you want to be when you grew up?" And so all these adults are like, "I wanted to be a ballerina. I wanted to do this," and none of them were doing the thing that they wanted to do. Why? Because they plugged into something that wasn't authentic, and they stayed plugged in. And oftentimes they'll have a temporary charge, but they'll never become fully charged because they're not plugged into the things that matter the most to them. And so the first thing when we think about power, when we think about connection, is making sure that that thing that we're plugged into, that thing that we sign up for every day, is what we want, is what we need, is what we desire. That change that we're making, where we're spending our time, that we're plugged into the right things. And so the first part of that empowering up is plugging into the right thing and what matters the most. Now here's the thing, you'll have often a lot of opportunity in your organization to sign up for things, to be a part of something. You've made a conscious decision to come here tonight to hear me, for me to talk to you, to talk about plugging in, powering up for the Women's Initiative, whatever the reason is that you chose to be here, you chose to plug in. Now, as we continue, you'll probably make a decision if that was the right decision or if you should have went ahead and went home and started dinner. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. If you find that this is the wrong decision for you, just put your little finger up and go on out the back door, and I'm okay. But you made this decision, right? You made the decision to show up. And when you said yes to coming into this room, you said no to other things. The thing, we got one already. The thing, she's going to the bathroom. I don't have any sense. I don't know why they keep inviting me places. But here's the thing. There's only a place for one plug here. That is my yes or no. I either am going to be all the way in or all the way out, wherever I am. And so for me, even if I'm thinking about an organization that I work for, the company that I'm a part of, am I even plugged into the right things at that company? Or am I plugging into everything that I think is going to get me ahead? Or the thing that's going to get me the most notice? Or the thing that's going to bring the most reward in that season, and not even thinking about reward that's futuristic, about what I really want? Do you know why many people don't plug into what they really want? Because they don't know. They don't know. I'll sit down with executives. I'm an executive coach, and I'll sit down with women that are running multi-million-dollar organizations in the role of a CFO or a COO or an executive vice president. And I'll ask her, what do you really want out of your career? I don't know. I thought this was it, and I'm surprised that I'm here, actually. This wasn't it. As I climbed, I thought this was what I wanted, but this isn't it. I don't know what's going to bring me fulfillment. I don't know what's going to make me happy. I don't know how I feel about the fact that there are 3 little people at my house that depend on me. I don't know what I want. Imagine if I didn't even know what type of phone I had. There's no way for me to find a charger because I don't know the manufacturer. I don't know the function. I don't know what dongle it takes at the end of this in order for me to be able to get a charge. And many of us are walking around that same way. We've made a decision to plug into organizations, life roles, and relationships based on what we thought was the right thing and not authentically what we wanted. Power. Illuminate a clear path for those that are following you. When you get inside of an organization, how many of you are leaders? How many of you lead people? Some of you. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. All of you should have raised your hand because you're leading people whether you have the title or not. People are following you. They're looking. If you leave your little dirty coffee mug in the sink, they're going to leave their dirty coffee mug in the sink. So therefore, they have followed you. If you leave your copies on the copier and don't come and get them on time and people have to move your crap out the way, someone else is going to do that. They're following you. In your organization, you are creating culture each and every day by how you act. So always remember that people are always following you, and are you a worthy follower? Social media has us so we're so what's the right word I'm looking for? We're so haphazard about follows now. We're so haphazard about friendship because all it takes is a click of a button and I can block you. Don't you wish that worked in real life? I hear sometimes I'm just like, block, it's not working. You're still standing there. But if you think about it, following. We follow people on Twitter. We follow people on Instagram. We follow all these people, but we're not thinking about the fact of if they're really leaders. And then those of us that are in the room are like, yes, I lead people. And others are like, I don't lead people. You lead people every day because people are watching you. And so it's important for you, once you plug into the right thing, for you to take that power. See, she came back. Give her a hand. That you take that power and you use it to illuminate a light, a pathway for everyone else that's following you. The little girl that's watching you, she's following you. Her friends are watching you, they're following you. The person at the front desk that checks you in, they're following you. Everyone's following you, but are you creating a path that they are able to follow? A path that leads them to a place that's better than where they are today. Lastly, connect, making every exchange powerful. Every single exchange. When I meet you, I might take my hand on my phone. Hey, how are you? I may not have made that a powerful exchange right then, and I may not have the time or capacity to make it powerful at that time. But I can circle back and make sure that I make that exchange powerful. So here's the thing. Connections are not haphazard. You don't just happen to be in the room today. You're in the room because there's someone in the room that you need to get to know. And so your job is to figure out who that person is, why you need to get to know them, and why you need to connect. There's a powerful thing that happens when women connect. When we start to focus on what needs to take place, we change some things. We see it happening, not just in our organizations, but we also see it happening in our country. There's so much power in connection. But where we miss it is, one, we don't connect often from an authentic place. Two, we don't connect to the right people. And three, we shy away from connection altogether. I'd like to share a little bit about my story. We'll go up one more. So this, I'm gonna put my back to the camera. I know that's a no-no, but I'm gonna do it so I can speak to this. The reason why I talk about this in companies and go around and talk about this is, if you see over there all the way to the left, you'll see what my office used to look like. And so I worked at the GSB building. You guys know that building? GSB baseball building. And so here I have an assistant. I have people all over the country that are dependent on me. I'm one removed from the CEO, who actually reports to Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cavs and Quicken Loans. And so for all my father and them are like, you are doing very well. This is great. And all of those things, that view of Philly from my office and everything being in glass, that seemed really cool. The whole executive parking, the profit sharing, the flying on the jets, the cutting the deals, that was so, I thought that was all I wanted in my whole life. Even as a kid, with my Cabbage Patch and my Barbies. We never played house. I don't know how I ended up with 5 children because we never played house. We always played work. My Barbies were always in the office. She was always dressed for work. She was catching the subway. When I watched this movie called 9 to 5 where the women, Dolly Parton was in it, I was wanted to be him. I had no desire to be her. I didn't want to be Rhoda. I wanted to be the person pressing the button to get Rhoda to come. I've never been a normal person, okay? So I was like, when people would say, what do you want to be? I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I want to wear heels that click, drink coffee, and ride the train. Now, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. There wasn't even any trains in Columbus. But I had made my mind up on what I was going to be. So what you see over there, when I walked into that office and they're like, pick out your furniture. And I'm like, what? I had to pick up. Okay, how much is that? Oh, don't worry about cost. Oh, this is it. This is fantastic. And I have all these people depending on me, not just depending on my leadership, but depending on me to make the right decision so they continue to get a paycheck. Because that's the role of a leader in an organization. I have to make sure that the decision I make sure that you get paid, and that you get paid. Because you have people at your house that are depending on you as you depend on me. That power, man, I wanted it. Oh my gosh, and when I got it, was I happy? I'm like, listen, I'm kind of a big deal. I make a lot of decisions around here. So let's everyone know that I'm a big deal. I want my name on the front of the door. Because that's what the mark of success is for me. I'm going to catch the train in to work, and I'm going to drink my Starbucks coffee. When I drive, I'm going to park in my executive parking. I'm going to tell my assistant to get me fresh cut flowers, and I want to make sure they're there on Mondays and Thursdays so that they don't die. Now, I remember one day I came in, I took the elevator up, and the door opened. As soon as the door opened, I was like, I don't want this. And then I asked myself, because I do talk to myself, so if you ever see me outside of this room and I'm talking to myself, let me finish my conversation before you interrupt, because I'm probably saying some pretty important things to myself, okay? But I have this conversation with myself, and I'm like, I don't want this. This isn't it. This right here isn't it. And then I'm like, maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I should call my therapist. Maybe I should call my father. Maybe I should call my pastor. I should probably call somebody because I'm standing here and the elevator closes back and starts to go downstairs. So I come back up and I step out and I walk to my office and I say good morning to my assistant and I sit down and I lean back in my chair and I say, I don't want this. I don't want the chair. I don't want the office. I don't want the desk. I don't want the people. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the power. But ever since I was a little girl, that's all I wanted was these things. So I plugged into it with no regard to cost, to the price that I would pay to get those things. And I started to unwind myself from it. I started to make decisions. I made my next hire as someone who could replace me. And I trained her, like in a great detail, how I think and why I make the decisions and the reports that I use and what the politics are. And I got her up to speed fairly quickly. While I sat in that desk, I stayed sick all the time. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I used to laugh every time they're like, do you have any stress? No, not at all. Just chase millions of dollars every month. And do you know at the end of the month it starts all over and I got to chase it again the next month? But I have no stress. Also, I have 5 kids. Did I mention I have 5 kids? Yeah, no stress at all. Did I mention that 2 of them are grown? No one wrote a book about that. Like, how do we deal with those crazy people? And so all of these things are going on and I no longer want this. And so I get on the phone and I call my dad. I say, Daddy. And he's a psychologist, by the way. I said, Daddy, listen, I want to quit my job. And he's like, girl, you crazy. You need to come home for a minute. What do you need? You need to come talk to me. What do you need? No, I want to quit my job. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, I want you to think through this because you've quit a lot of things because I'd also divorced my husband. Right? So he's like, I'm noticing a trend. You might want to talk before you get to the kids. And so I'm like, I just don't want this. I feel a greater calling on me. I feel like there's more I'm supposed to do. I feel like I've come this far, but this is not what I want to do long term. I don't want to go into big business. I don't want, I love the startup space. I love the negotiations. I love acquisitions. I love that, but I don't want to do this anymore. So he flew me home in true form of him, and we sat down and we talked about my life plan. I made the decision to leave corporate. I went to a board meeting in Boston, never forget it, sat down with the chairman of the board and our CEO, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And their answer was, we can move you to another company. Is it the company? Where do here are the companies in our portfolio. I don't want to do this board meeting, EBITDA, gross profit, average cost per sales acquisition, none of Excel. How about that? I don't want to do Excel. I don't want to do another PowerPoint. And here I'm still doing them, but I don't want to do another PowerPoint. I want out. Now, that's a crazy decision because I made a lot of money. Profit sharing, all stock, all of that stuff. I made a lot of money. But here's where, and I don't know what the camera's doing, but I want to walk over here and show you. When I gave up this and realized I was plugged into the wrong thing, even though by everybody else's measure, I was extremely successful, especially my family. We lived in a 6-bedroom, 6-bath house. If you talk about cars, we drove them, right? And so my kid who's 16 was driving my old Mercedes because I would just buy him and let him run out and give it to him. So life should have been good, but I was miserable. My battery was dead every day. Even though I was plugged in and connected to something, it didn't matter. So I walk away. Now everyone does think I'm crazy. And in the back of my mind, I'm a little concerned as well. I'm thinking like, okay, so where are we going to get a check, Uneeka? Like, how do we get paid now? Like, what's the plan, ma'am? Because you still have 2 that are going into college. But when I release this and decide to plug into other stuff, this is what you see on this side. And this is just my story. Don't y'all leave here and go quit your job. Okay? I have people that are like, hey, I quit. What are you doing now? Not sure. Well, that's a problem. You need to go back and see if they'll take you back. But for me, this is the moral of this is about plugging into the right thing, not quitting your job tomorrow. I leave, and now here, this is in my living room, and I have all these kids that I'm able to have youth group. 40 kids from the high school that come to my house and I can have youth group, and I'm not stressed because I'm stuck in traffic on 76 before I can get to them. I can give my all to them. I had a grandchild that was born, and I was able to be there at that child's birth. I'd missed so many of those, like all these important things I'd missed because I was sitting here often, finishing up stuff, getting things done. We have here, I went to Atlanta and I spoke to a room full of sex trafficking survivors whose ages were 8 to 17. 8 to 17, but they survived sex trafficking. So I had an opportunity to fly there and talk to them. Up there in the this upper corner where you see the young man and the baby, that's my son, Sean. Sean had a Division I scholarship. Sean got addicted to drugs as a child, as a teenager. I couldn't write a check to fix him. Does it make sense? Are you following me? I sent him to the best rehabs all the way down to West Palm Beach, trying to get this kid back on track because he has a future. And his future is bright. And so I do everything. And despite my best efforts, Sean still ends up in prison. Still serving. He's serving state time right now because he made some decisions that forced him somewhere else. Now, as a mother, I pause and I think, if I spent more time in his bedroom opposed to the boardroom, would it have been different? I don't know, right? I spend more time like, hey, if I went to not just the home games, but the away games too, and was present in the stands, would that make a difference? Because I was so plugged in over here with the power and the money and the respect and everything that came with this. I liked being the only girl at the table. I liked being the only one on the jet. I got to drive the golf course when we went out for golfing with the clients. I loved that. And if I'm honest, I probably loved it more than this because I was plugged into the wrong thing. And so you have this kid that gets addicted. You have this kid that in high school ends up having a baby. You have the mother of that baby that says, I do not want to parent. I want to put the baby up for adoption. I don't want the baby. I'm doing really good in college, and I don't want to screw my life up with a kid. And I step up and I say, I'll take the baby. If I was still over here plugged in here, that wouldn't even have been an option. 45 years old getting a newborn, come on, I didn't do that good the first time around. So I'm like, this is a little person. And so this little kid up here, this Trey, I've had Trey since he was probably 37 minutes old. They were still cleaning him off when I got him. And I remember calling my father and going, listen, they've trusted me with another little person. You might want to pray. I'm not sure how this is going to end up. Like, what do you do with these things? Like, do they still have the diaper delivery service? How am I supposed to feed it? Like, there was all these things. But I take this child in. Here's me speaking. Here's a book I wrote. Here's me speaking to a room full of women that survived domestic violence. And then this is my youngest, who right now is entertaining the University of Penn, Princeton, Davidson, and he is not my Ivy League child. So y'all need to touch and agree and pray for us to get some state interest because I'm very concerned about him. I'm like, you're getting all these academic schools. Have you showed them your transcript? So I now get to go to his games. That's a big deal when you get plugged into the right thing. Listen, I still get job offers. I still have CEOs that call me and say, will you come back on the inside? My worst day on the outside being plugged into the right thing is better than my best day ever was in corporate. My ability to empower people is greater now than it was when I was inside. And it's not the shift from being inside to outside, it's the shift of what I'm plugged into, what I'm focused on, what charges me, and having the courage to talk about it, having the courage to say to people who thought I was crazy that I'm plugging into the thing that matters most to me. And that's educating, equipping, and empowering women all over this country. That's what makes my battery get charged. Not EBITDA, not board meetings, not golfing, not client the wine at the end of the year from the client's champagne if you're really good to them. It's none of those things. But having the ability to take a pause and take Trey down to the park and swing him in the swings and watch him laugh, oh, that's what I'm plugged into. Now, when you're on a plane and you're flying, and they always say this, I don't know why they give this warning, because I'm like, y'all really start this in a negative way. If the cabin should lose pressure, thanks. That's something I want to visualize right now. Oxygen masks are going to fall. Put the mask on yourself before you secure it on someone else. Plugging into the right thing is putting the oxygen mask on yourself. Getting clarity. Because now you can strengthen way more people when you're plugged into the right thing. Your longevity is longer when you're plugged into the right thing. If you find yourself tired, you don't have to point to the person next to you. We know they're cranky, evil, frustrated. If you find yourself that way most days, you're not plugged into the right thing. If you find yourself always wishing to be somewhere else, you're not plugged into the right thing. If you despise Sunday nights and Monday mornings, you're not plugged into the right thing. So I challenge you today to think about what it is you really want to be plugged into. It may not mean you're supposed to quit your job. I have to keep saying that because I get these reports of people that are like, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to hike through such and such. Bad idea, because you got to pay your bills. But you have to figure out what that thing is. What is your unique charger? Whether it's in work or outside of work. Even with relationships, what is your unique charger? What is the thing that's really going to pump you up? That's going to allow you to partner with other women and eliminate a path so that they can go further than where they are now. I'm going to pause right there and see if any of you have any questions before I go on. Great, there'll be more time for questions later. So when we talk about this, right, do you even have the courage to plug into it? Listen, because you go against norms. There are not many 40-ish women that are just walking off of jobs, especially good ones, with kids still in school. That's not, nope. My dad's like, I think they have a pill for that. You should check and see what they can give you. You're losing it. My family thought if we downsized, I went into a condo. I mean, people were just like, how are we going to have the Labor Day cookout? Like, I just don't understand. Like, we usually have it at your house. I'm like, we still have it at my house. Oh, my God. You guys just got to get hotels now. I drive a Kia. Mercedes maintenance is high when you're an entrepreneur. So I let it go. I was like, we're not okay. Once we're going to sell this one, y'all keep those two, and we're going to go from there. So I drive a Kia because the baby has to fit in the car. And the baby has McDonald's, and the baby drops things, and the baby was dropping those things in the Mercedes. I was in my feelings, and so I had to let that go. But do you even have the courage to plug into what's really important to you? Or are you stuck with an artificial charger because of what everybody else might think about how you're charging? What are you called to do in this earth? We often focus about what we're called to do at our job, what we're called to do, day to day. Like you have a task list probably. When you woke up this morning, you probably made a task list of what you're going to accomplish. This is what I'm called to do. I'm talking about something greater than that. What are you truly here for? Why do you breathe? Why do your lungs inflate and deflate? Who are you supposed to connect to? Who are you supposed to empower with your story? How many of you ever been through something traumatic? Heartbreaking. Yeah, those things don't come just because. They come because they give you space to be able to share with someone else. So you can equip somebody else for that journey. I lost my mother early on. My sons were 9 and 11. They found her on the floor when they came in after school. She had had a heart attack. Traumatic experience, right? But now I could talk to people. I could say, listen, that's your mom? Don't disrespect your mother. You only get one. Let me tell you why I'm sharing this. People are like, whoa. And then adults are like, oh my gosh, my mom keeps calling, checking up on me. The woman wants me to talk to her. Some of y'all guilty, I can tell. I wish she could call me. Do you know what I mean? I wish she could call me. So that traumatic experience then translates into something that can help somebody else. Who are you called to lead? What should you be doing? And what price are you willing to pay? For being here in an authentic place, what price are you willing to pay? My change cost me some relationships. But I gained relationships with my children. Because in my role, I was able to buy them, right? New Jordans, here you go. New phones, iPads, little I, no Droid. But anything that's higher than I, you can have it. You want to go to the game? That's fine. You want a vacation in the islands? Let's do it. I could buy them. Mommy travels all the time, but she comes back with great gifts. I could buy them. So I lost some relationships in corporate, but I gained the most important relationships because I plugged into what's important to me. Now I'm unstoppable. Now I don't even worry anymore about what people think because I already got past it. I had to go from being the corporate chick to being the entrepreneur and making a decision about that. Do you have the courage to plug into it? When you think about your organization, what's important to the organization? What's going to make the organization successful this year? And what's your part in it? Are you plugged into that? Are you aware? The only reason people still call me for jobs is because I can catch a vision and I can run with it. If my CEO said we need this, I'm like, okay, I can dissect that and get it down to a place where I understand exactly what needs to happen for his vision to come to pass. Why? Because I was plugged into the organization when I worked there. Sometimes a little too much, which is probably why I was in emergency room. But I was plugged in. But are you plugged in? Do you know what it takes to move the organization forward? Your department, your area, your project. Are you aware? That's where we add value as women and men in an organization, is our ability to move vision, to carry vision, to birth vision. That's why I didn't say it wasn't really for the guys, because you guys are like, now remember when my wife was holding my hand and squeezing it really hard, but that whole birthing process I have no idea about. But that is where we bring an enormous amount of value. When we're plugged into the right thing personally, our power increases professionally. When I'm plugged into the right things personally, my self-esteem rises, my performance improves, my productivity improves, because I don't have to second guess everything else. I don't have mom guilt. Why? Because I'm plugged into the right things. I don't have husband or wife guilt. Why? Because I'm plugged into the right things. I'm not frustrated with my commute. Why? Because I understand I'm plugged into this and I chose it. And everything's a choice. So if I made the choice, then it's on me to make a decision if I want to change it. Or if I want to unplug and get the right type of charger. So when you think about your organization, what is the number one thing that has to be done in your company? And how do you impact that? What do you do? Because then that changes how you show up every day. I'm part of something bigger, something greater than just this cube or just this office or just this workspace. Because what I do actually impacts the organization in this way, and I'm plugged into that. What questions do you have so far before I continue? Emotional outbursts or snide remarks? Okay. When we talk about powering up, and we talk about how we are going to cast a compelling vision, provide clear direction, and reward performance. As a leader in your organization, even if you're not leading people formally, but you're informally leading them, you may be saying to yourself, if you're not a leader of people, Uneeka, how do I cast a compelling vision? Well, if I go back one slide and I understand what's important with it, if it's the firm, what's the most important thing in the firm right now? If you're a client and at your company, what's the most important thing in the company right now? Now, as I'm talking in the break room, I'm casting that vision because I know what's important. So I don't really have time to talk a whole lot about your weekend and what you did and what movie you saw. I want to talk about vision because guess what? If I can move vision forward, I can shift the organization. That's good for all of us. That's not just good for me. That's good for both of us. So as we're having a conversation, now I can cast it. Raise your hand again if you lead people. If you lead people, understanding the cascading bit. Oh, all of you now, like, nope, you told me I lead people. Because I'm like, that's more than last time. You're like, tricky. You're like, nope, you told me I lead people now, Uneeka. So now people will be walking out like, did you know I lead people? Okay. But for those of you that have a formal role where you're leading people, taking that vision that comes from the top and being able to put it in bite-sized chunks for the organization so that the people can execute. Because if they can execute on the vision, you look good, your boss looks good, the firm looks good, the company looks good. And casting that vision, what's that middle word? Is compelling. No one, it was never sexy for me to get in front of my people and say, hey, we've got to hit 13 million this month. No one cares. Like, no one cares about that, right? But when I worked in heart monitoring, what I would say is we monitor 2 billion beats a day. 2 billion beats. Our goal is to get to 3 billion beats. Let me tell you how that translates to revenue. Let me tell you how that translates to profit. Now I got your attention. Why? Because the vision is compelling. It's not just some antiquated number that we're chasing. I understand that if I don't do my job, there's going to be one less person sitting at the dinner table at night. We save lives. When I worked for a fall detection service, we talked about, would you want your grandmother on the floor? Every time we sell one of these devices is because we're preventing elderly people from laying on the floor without help. Now that makes sense. That's a compelling vision. But casting that, and it's difficult for people to cast that and aren't plugged in. If I don't really believe in what we do, I can't articulate a compelling vision. I can only say we got to chase 13 million. Let's get to 13 million. Provide clear direction. This is where I find that most of my clients miss it. We talk about what we want, but we won't tell you how to get there. I had a client email me the other day and they said, hey, I asked someone to do a survey. We did an employee survey. They sent the survey out. They opened up a free SurveyMonkey account under their personal name, and we only could get 100 surveys back, and 175 people responded. I'm like, did you tell them to open up a business one? I shouldn't have to. Hence, we're having this conversation that you didn't tell them what to do. So are you providing clear direction for people on where they want to go? And then do you reward performance? This strategy works at home as well. It hasn't quite gotten my kids to not leave dirty dishes in the sink overnight, but it works for the most part. Casting a compelling vision, providing clear direction, and rewarding performance. What do you think so far?
Oh my goodness. It's very enlightening only because I think that most of us in here think about these things, but we don't think about them as in depth as you just put it. I think it's more surface than anything, but now you like forcing us to reflect, evaluate a little bit deeper. But in terms of this list, I kind of do this with my 5-year-old. It doesn't really work right now, but because I learned it somewhere else. But I do it. I don't think he really gets it, but sometimes he does follow.
That's good. 5-year-olds just take casting a compelling vision repetitive mode because you have to keep doing it with them.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Now, everyone on this side of the room, while I'm keeping eye contact with you, they're all like, how can I look like so she won't pick on me and ask me what I think? And so this entire side is like, okay, let's just stay over there. Pick another person from that side. Hello, Prince. What do you think so far? What do you think? What's your name? I'm sorry. Let me pause you for just a second. What was your name? Sarita. Do I know you?
Maybe, I don't know.
Did you work at CardioNet?
No.
Okay. My apologies. What's your name? Liz. All right, Liz, what are you thinking so far?
I think it's great. I think that you're breaking it down, the idea of casting a compelling vision. I think that people know how to do very well in performance and provide their direction and break it. Or, just whatever the phrase was, that's the hard part. And in an organization, figuring out does which part of that and how it gets everybody, because there's so much talent throughout an organization, and sometimes it ends up being little pockets there.
Absolutely. That's powerful. You think about how many people you have in your organization, bright individuals, and how it's getting done. Like for me, it was always important to be visual. I don't know what your offices actually look like, but we used to have our walls were all whiteboard because we all had a lot to write and had a lot to say. And so taking the certain processes and going out and say, okay, who are the superstars? Who are my up and coming? Who do I want to retain in the organization? And candidly, who do I care? Who do I not care if they leave tomorrow? Those people exist, right? They're just not here tonight. And so going through that process sometime when you're getting on the providing clear direction is understanding, like even from a stack ranking perspective and based on performance, who would be best suited for certain things. All right. How many of you in here feel like you're plugged into the right thing professionally and personally? 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe half, give or take. How many of you think you have some work to do? So here's my next question then. What's stopping you? Back here, what's your name? Uh-huh. You thought I went over there, didn't you? Like, dang on it. All right. Katie, what's stopping you? Not knowing what the right things are. That's powerful. Give her a hand for admitting that in front of a room full of people. Not knowing what the right things are. That's difficult. I'm going to give you a tool that you can use that'll help you get to the right things. This is for you, Katie. It's a gift. Put your ideal day. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. What are you wearing? What do you eat? How do you wake up? What are you doing? Who do you meet? Who is present? Who is absent? Taking that day all the way from the start to the finish to you going to bed. That activity was one of the reasons why I divorced my husband. Because I do mine on my birthday. Now listen, two things that are not takeaways. We're not quitting our jobs and we're not getting a divorce. All right, say it with me. We're not following Uneeka in that path. But that was one of the things, because when I did my ideal day one time, he wasn't in it. And then the next year he wasn't in it either. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm settling for something. I'm settling for something that is, not only is it not, I'm settling. I'll leave it at that. And so for me, I had to take the courage and decide to change, because I'm not plugged into the right thing. This plug is actually something that's deterring me from doing what I'm created to do in the earth. So I had to make a hard decision. This is why my father worries about me still and texts me in the morning, are we in our right mind today? Sorta, Daddy, sorta. But if you write your ideal day down, the other thing that helped solidify me leaving corporate is I woke up with the sun coming across my face. Well, I hadn't woke up like that in like 26 years because I always woke up to an alarm clock. And so waking up with the sun coming across my face, I knew I wasn't working for someone in my ideal day. The thing that I did throughout the day, that told me that I was in the wrong place. And so once you do that, once you come up with the ideal day, then you do what's called a gap analysis. You guys are familiar with that. You probably do it in your job. So I say, okay, here's my current day. Here's my ideal day. What are the gaps? And what can I do every single day, every single week to close that gap a little bit? It may not be anything huge, Katie, right? It may not be anything huge. It may be something like, hey, I'm going to research condo prices in San Diego. That's what I'm going to do, because I want to live in San Diego. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little over the snow. Just this much. And so I've decided I want to go west. And so with that, today I might just research condos. Tomorrow I might, plan a trip and start to save towards a trip to go out and visit. All of those different things are still getting me closer to my ideal day, and they allow me to thrive where I'm normally surviving, because I can thrive while I occupy this space and I'm not all the way plugged in where I need to be. I can now thrive here before I have to go to the next space. So creating your ideal day, and I think you guys are giving everyone in here a book. So it's in the book. So the ideal day and the process of how to do that is actually in the book for you to walk through. Connection is the energy that is created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. So remember, I talked about connecting with you. If I would have connected with you, and I just was like, oh hi, she doesn't feel seen, she doesn't feel heard, she doesn't feel valued. So when people ask me, hey, I spent, I launched Lead Her, but I did one specifically. A study came out about the C-suite pipeline for everyone, for all people, and it had a comparison in there. And so I launched a leadership program just for African American women, which I held in DC last week. And when we were talking about that, one of the biggest hindrances that they pointed out in the survey is that when African American women come into the workplace, they don't connect with their leaders. Like, they're afraid to, you probably know this from diversity and inclusion. It's the McKinsey report that recently came out on workplace. You probably already read it. But they won't connect. Like, they don't have access and they don't connect. And that bothered me, because I was like, I never had that problem. Then I was like, well, why? Well, because I'm a little loudmouth person, and I would just come in like, question, sir. You said in the meeting, they're like, who is this chick? And I'm like, oh, I have questions. My name's Uneeka, by the way. I run your this, that, and the other. But I always went, and I had the courage to go in and get that information and then connect. And once I understood what was important, then I did that work, the work that was important, right? And that's how I got to connect. So here, feeling seen, heard, and valued. When you think about, when you walk in a room like this and you may not know everybody, the people that you do have the opportunity to interact with, make sure they feel seen, heard, and valued. That means if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm not also on my phone. I'm present in the conversation. I'm having eye contact with you. I'm remembering your name. I'm saying your name back to you. I'm interested in what you're sharing with me. That makes sense? That's what gives us the energy to be successful. One of the biggest misconceptions that folks have is that they can do this by themselves. You can't. Okay? We're not created to do life alone. We're not created to be successful or win alone. Now I'm a LeBron James fan. I don't care what you think. And I won't talk about the headlines I saw this morning, but I'm a basketball fan. But LeBron James is my favorite player. So when LeBron was in Cleveland, I was in Cleveland. When LeBron went to Florida, I went to Florida. I've always hated the Lakers my whole life. So when he went to the Lakers, I needed therapy, to actually go over. I went, but it took a minute. And I still watch the games. I can't believe I'm watching these jerseys because I thought for sure he'd come to Philly. That'd be the greatest thing. Why aren't you here, bro? So I am a LeBron James fan. One of the things that I do think about LeBron that could be an area of coaching is sometimes he thinks he can do it alone. He thinks he's the team, right? He has a LeBron. He has a almost a godlike, thought process when he hits the court. I'm King James. Watch me roar. And that's cost him a couple times. Even a lot of the headlines that they're talking about is how he treats the team, because LeBron thinks he is the team. But a lot of us have that same LeBron type complex when we come in. I got it. I got it. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I got it. You can't. It's not sustainable. Even if you've been successful for 5 years doing it on your own, you won't be successful long term. And that's going to show up in a way of sickness. High blood pressure, heart disease, fibromyalgia, that's how it shows up when you're doing it on your own, when you won't ask for help. I share with you guys I have full custody of my grandson. That's a joke within itself. I still can't believe they trusted me. But I have full custody of my grandson, and one of the things I didn't want to do was ask for help. So this kid was traveling around. He has his own Instagram, Trey Travels, because he was everywhere. I'm speaking in the Bahamas. Trey's in the Bahamas with me. I got a nanny to travel with me, and he's all over the country. But I wouldn't ask for help. So I could never increase my capacity to serve people like you because I wouldn't ask for help. And there were people around like, hey, I got you. I can help you. But I need to prove that I can do it by myself. That's the LeBron syndrome, right? In order for you to elevate and improve your capacity, you have to make connections, real connections, authentic connections. It's okay to have a give and take. It's okay for me to have a purpose. What's your name?
Catalina.
Catalina? You pause. You sure? Is it Catalina for real?
I'm not from here, so most people cannot pronounce my name real.
Catalina. But it's Catalina. Am I saying it correctly?
No, it is Catalina.
Say it again?
Catalina.
Catalina.
Yeah.
Is that right? Catalina. Okay, I think with a name like Uneeka, you appreciate when people can pronounce it. Trust me. Then Eureka and all kind, Catalina, correct? So if if Catalina has something, is that right? If Catalina has something that I need, and I have something that Catalina needs, I have to make sure that I'm okay with that exchange and know that I'm purposeful and intentional in connecting with her because of the need that I have. We try and mask it. Act like, give me your business card, maybe we'll go out for drinks. What do you need? What is it? What can I do for you? How can I serve you? Because we can cut all the way through the chase, where we don't have to have 3 drinks before you say, hey, could you possibly connect me to so-and-so? Can you do a LinkedIn recommendation on this? Just tell me what you need, and we'll be okay. But oftentimes we drag that whole process out, and that's when it becomes inauthentic. So you have to make sure that you're having authentic connections. The key to that is, are you showing up as your authentic self? Are you who you say you are when you come in the room? Or do you modify in the car? Do you switch into somebody else when you come in the room? Authenticity gets authenticity. So if you're not going to be authentic, you won't have authentic. Am I present? Am I listening? If I'm on my phone right now and I see 3 people are talking to me in LinkedIn, Uber wants me to break my trip, and my youngest son wants to know if there's anything on the Wawa app. While I'm doing that, which notifications for me never stop, while I'm doing that, I'm not present with you. This has robbed many of us from connection. And not just professional connection, but connections with our kids, connections with our spouses, connections with people that matter, because these things are so enticing, they're so inviting that we've got to see, did LeBron score? We've got to see that this happened. And unfortunately, we won't put it back down. Be present in the rooms that you are and be authentic in the rooms that you are. What questions do you have for me? I think we have a few minutes. Am I doing right? Where's Lexi? Lexi's gone? Okay, Lexi left. Okay. I think I have a few minutes for questions. I think I'm supposed to stop at 6. Anything, open book, you can ask me. And I'll answer. You might not like the answer, but I can. Yes. What's your name?
Bessie.
Say it again.
Bessie, sure.
Bessie?
Bessie, right, yeah.
Okay.
When you're talking about giving people direction, how do you distinguish giving direction, but what do versus micro and having to sometimes you kind of want to see thought process and them. How do you make that distinction?
So I think it's about, so I'll answer with direction, with an example, then I'll come back. I want this wall painted green. That's the end goal, right? I want the wall painted green. What I didn't tell you is to get the tape from Lowe's, that I want it to be an olive green, that I want you to use this type of paintbrush, that I want you to source it, outsource it. I didn't give that direction. I just gave, I wanted the wall painted green, right? That's the moment where I may want to understand your thought process. Now, if I come in and the wall's red, it's you, because I gave you the directions, right? This is not my problem. I said green. I didn't say what type of green, but I said green, and you painted it red, you lost. But if I want to provide direction, right? And it's not just where I'm casting vision and you're going to catch it and you're going to go and do it. I want this wall painted olive green. I hear that they have paintbrushes on sale at Lowe's, and you probably can get the tape there as well. Now, if I come in and the wall is painted olive green on time and under budget, which is always my recommendation, if the wall is painted olive green, then I've done my job. Now, if the wall is supposed to be painted olive green by Friday and it's Wednesday and I come in and you haven't prepped, now I got to lean in and do some micromanaging. Hey, question. Did we buy the paint? Did we buy the brushes? What's the plan? What's the process? What are we doing? If it's supposed to be done 3 weeks from now, I may check in, add some type of feedback loop that I have in the organization. Part of that feedback loop is, hey, give us an update on the wall. Oh, well, we bought the paintbrushes. They were out of the olive green. We couldn't mix it. We were ordering it from Japan. Any of those things. Now, at least I'm abreast, right? There are going to be some people in your that you lead that you'll have to micromanage because they won't get it. And at that point, I always believe in hiring slow, firing fast. That's just how I was. Like as I go through the process, if I got to I don't have the capacity to micromanage you. So it doesn't mean that you're a sucky person. It just means you're not a fit for my team or this organization, given the pace that we're going. Does that answer your question? Right, fantastic. Next question. Yes, ma'am. Too long. 25, at least 25 years. I stopped counting since I've left. It's been at least 25 years. So
How long felt like you were like, that was my before you actually?
that was probably a 5-year process. Have you guys ever heard of Ken Blanchard? He wrote The 1 Minute Manager. He wrote Who Moved My Cheese. Most organizations know that. He wrote that with a friend. Well, his wife Marjorie held a retreat for women out in San Diego. And so I was out there, and she had us. The ideal day thing is not mine. I went through with her. And as I was writing that ideal day, there was a huge realization. I actually was in tears weeping because I realized there was such a disconnect to what my heart desired and what I had actually built for myself, and I felt trapped. And at that moment, and it wasn't until I got to the place, I got hired into the organization at GSB to save it. So I'm known to come in and turn it around. I turn operations around for people to fail. And sometimes that comes through merger acquisition. But with that day on the elevator, there was no tipping point. There wasn't like, oh, it just the elevator opened and I was like, it's a hard no for me. Like, this is time. I got to figure this out, and I got to figure it out quickly because I don't want to do it. I don't care how quickly you answer the phone. I don't care how many customers come on board. I need out. And so it probably was around a 5-year time span. I had started thinking about it. I worked for a publicly traded company with a lot of stock options before that, and so I made my next move for the sole purpose of having equity in the organization that will continue to build on what I needed to do to be able to hopefully retire. Does that make sense? So it may not be a quick process, right? But you have to be courageous enough to take the steps each and every day. So when I left the one organization, I left a CEO that was amazing. I think they're a client of yours only because they knew I was coming here. I can't do anything secretive in Philadelphia anymore, I'm noticing. But I left an amazing CEO. Amazing job. 12 minutes from my house to go to this place that was a lot of work. But that was a step, right? It was a courageous step for me to take from being comfortable to being uncomfortable because I knew I needed that step. That makes sense? That's where the courage comes from. And so here's the thing, like, have you ever got a rock in your ship? Eventually it becomes like a rock in your ship. And I think that's what happened when the door opened. When that elevator door opened, that rocket irritated me. And it's whether it's going to another organization, doing something different in the current organization, going out on your own, those things you have to know, because if you don't, I'm telling you, there's sharks out there that will eat you up alive. Because you can jump. I always tell people, especially when working with clients, don't jump from an organization to another organization unless it's the perfect match, right? Because you're not dead. Like where you are right now, you're not dead unless it's a part of a long-term plan. Don't just jump to be jumping. And so if you're contemplating, write out your ideal day, make some lists, and then commit to yourself. Right? We make promises to everyone, and we try and keep those, but we don't keep commitments to ourselves. I'm guilty. Like I have the gym stuff, the membership, and all that. I haven't made it. I bought that thing back in November, and I was like, I bought the little bag. I got everything set up. All the cute little clothes. I visualized myself doing it. I'm like, it's a hard no for me. I'm not committed to myself. So we'll make these commitments to other people, right? I'll be in the gym for my son. I'll sit there for 2 hours while people bounce an orange thing around and it smells, but I won't go to the gym for myself. So make a commitment to yourself on what you really want. But to Katie's point, you have to realize what it is. Make sense? Right. Any other questions? So I'm going to do her, and then I'll come to you. Anybody over here? Did you have your hand up? Yes. Okay, and then I'll come over to you. Yes, ma'am.
I work a lot with students, and if they feel underrepresented in an organization, and it's very hard to do their corporate stuff and the professional stuff. I wonder if you've done coaching something at all.
With children, with students, meaning college students?
Law students.
And so you said because they're underrepresented.
Like if they're coming into a firm and they feel like they're the only woman in a small firm or the only person of color, any of those kinds of things, and they feel, how do I balance this idea? I think they're hearing a lot, be who you are, be authentic self. That doesn't feel.
That's a tough one, because that age group and their authentic self, that's a tough one. I have not done coaching around that, but as I'm thinking it from a youth group perspective, and those are high schoolers, right? We talk a lot about that because we made the news. My kids go to Downingtown East, and we made the news because our high school has the highest level. I mean, we've had 4 suicides in the last year. It's a high performing high school for it to be public, right? And the kids are cracking between lacrosse, basketball. I mean, they're struggling. And so we talk about authenticity in youth group. And they're like, oh, Miss Uneeka, I can't because of this and I can't because of that. So we take all those camps, and I'm like, okay, even in corporate, I always showed up with a level of authenticity for myself, right? So I would not go against what my core value system and belief system was. That may mean I can't come in and be like, yo, it's good, because that's not appropriate, right? But that might be appropriate if I'm hanging out with my with my youth group, because I have to talk like that for them to understand what I'm saying. I have to watch videos, I have to listen to the rappers, I have to do a whole lot in order to even understand what they need from me. But that understanding authentic self versus culture. How do you fit into the culture? And that may be a broader conversation of, do you fit, right? Because I think you bring your authentic self, but you also have to make a decision. It goes back to choice on if I fit with the culture, because that's a part of what we decide. We fill out the applications, we take the drug test, we go through the process. Do I even fit in the culture? So for them, authenticity would probably be looking for the culture in which they fit, opposed to trying to force their authenticity into a culture they may not fit. And being the only one, that's not a bad thing. I just taught on that last week. Like, I used to love being the only one. Like, and then I wanted to invite other people to the table, and I was like, this is great. Like, the guys are like, what do you want to do? I want a massage. Okay, well, we'll send you to the massage parlor. Yes. I loved it. Like, it was so many different things. And I also liked coming in to broker a deal, and they thought I was not important, but I'm the numbers person. So everyone looks over me or says little things to me, and then I'm like, so by the way, I want to talk to you a little bit about it. They're like, wait a minute, who is this? So being the only one has a lot of advantages as well that they can learn from. That makes sense? What's your name? Oh, well, you told me your name for Lisa. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
When you spoke about casting
Vision.
The example you gave was that you're leader, and team. And in a way, the power dynamic is such where they kind of have to buy into whatever you're doing, regardless of how compelling it is. How do you translate that in a scenario where you've already plugged in something that's connected to and authentic and is big and powerful, but you're trying to get them to buy into your vision, where in a way the dynamic is switched, where they have the power, i.e. the funds or the connections,
Gotcha.
what have you, and what something.
Yeah. I think that passion translates there, right? When we talk about compelling, I have to determine what's compelling for you. So if you're writing a grant or you're donating money or you're funding something or I'm trying to pitch something to someone that's higher up, what is it that they're going to be thinking about? So when people will come into my office and they're trying to cast some kind of vision they want me to buy into, they knew I only really care about two things: making more money and spending less money. Like for in my role, that's so. If you come in and you're like, hey, I know how we can save $750,000. You have all my attention. Clear my books. I don't need to talk to anybody else. What are we going to do? And so when you have to figure out what's compelling for them. So often we'll want to cast vision that's compelling to us. But when you're casting it to somebody, what's compelling for them? What are they interested in? Because that's how you get the buy-in. If I start talking about stuff that you don't care about, you're never going to buy into it because it's not something that's compelling for you. Just like I talked about with the youth group where I have to, they come in, I'm like, what's good? And, I'm always in jeans and a t-shirt. I can't talk to them in this. And even when I'm talking about their stressors and things like that, I talk about their Snapchat, which I don't even know how to use, and their Instagram. I talk for them. I cast a vision at their level. Oftentimes when vision fails, it's because we cast it above the level of the people that we need to actually run it, that can actually carry it out. We've cast it up here because that's where we received it, and we haven't broken it down into bite-sized chunks so they can actually run with it. Catalina.
Yes. When you are saying that you decided to quit to your job, you already knew what kind of thing you were doing, like
Oh yeah, yeah.
you wanted to do this.
Yeah, I was doing it on the side for a long time. And so there, I talk, in other talks about an internal symphony, right? There's something that, and everyone has it, man, woman, doesn't matter. We have it. And so there's this, when you're doing that thing, you feel it. You know that that's what you're supposed to do. And so when I would get in front of groups and I'm talking, even at work, like when I would be, I'm casting village division and I'm talking, I'm telling them like, this is a thing. This is a thing. I need to think about that. And so I knew what it was that I wanted. I just was denying myself that plug. So I kept the Sunoco charger opposed to having the Apple charger, and that's why I was never fully charged. Yes, yes, ma'am.
I put your opinion, your advice on mature
Okay.
because I find that because I'm mature, very much mature, very sometimes when I come with what I already know, like you said, your direction, I find that people in different positions aren't. And so when I first come about, I try to do an icebreaker. I try to because I do have a strong I try to do an icebreaker. I try to laugh and get. I'm very social in my group, very funny, but at the same
I
time,
like how you said I'm very funny. I like that.
pardon me?
I like how you said I'm very funny. Like I like that you own
Well,
that.
I am.
I love
I have
it.
confidence in myself.
No, I think it's good. I'm serious.
And I'm mature. I'm on my way out. But at the same time, I find that we know that in this country, we want the younger than the older. And so sometimes it gets a little twisted and it's not listening. And I don't know how to say it the way I would like to say it. So I would say it.
Okay.
It's the intimidation. So the vision and ideals don't go any place, just stay there. Because, or if they take my vision and ideals. So what advice do you have for me as a mature woman?
So let me unpack a couple things. So I think that there are when we see an action, right? If there's an action or a conversation or there's something that occurs, we tell ourselves a story. And that's where it starts. Like we tell ourselves a story and then we act from that. And sometimes what that story is based on what we've seen before or what somebody else did. And so now when we're coming to the table, we already have this preconceived idea, right? Mature, and it sounds like that your message may be getting lost in translation when you're talking to someone who is not as mature, using your words, right? And so the first thing I would say, the first part of advice would be to deal with the story. So even if, like for example, Disney, when they're training people, they talk about in their customer service training, if you ever go to Disney, if you ask where the bathrooms are, they're going to tell you with as much enthusiasm as they told the other person, even though the sign is right here. His bathroom. They're going to be like, here it is, and they're going to do it 1,000 times a day to all the people that when they get in the break room, they're going to say are idiots. Okay. And so my advice would be the first thing is to make sure that you're fine tuning the story. that the story is actually accurate, because there can be some assumptions sometimes that impact the messaging. The second is that I would articulate that message or that vision at the level for them to receive it. And if people find you, so people found I'm over 6 feet tall, and I usually wear 3-4 inch heels. So people already say I was intimidating before I even got in there. I mean, if I walk through the center, they're like, Uneeka's intimidating. I'm like, I feed the homeless. Does that count? I'm not intimidating.
Right.
But what I had to do is I had to dial back because I didn't understand the amount of power that I brought into a room. And the smaller that room is, the more power. And now I'm suffocating the people that I need to help. So if the one goal is that job one, that I want something to happen in the organization, that becomes more important to me. So I never cared in corporate when people took my ideas. Hey, if it's gonna bring in more revenue or save us some money, have it. You need credit for it, fantastic. Put your name on a PowerPoint. I don't care. But are we getting job one done?
Well, I don't care if you take it, but reward me for the performance. Hey, a little bit along the way.
No, understood. But I think that good work doesn't go unnoticed always, right? And so even if I lose this one, I'll get the next one, right? And I do think, though, I think, one, I would challenge the story. Make sure you're casting it at a manner where they can receive it. And two, just dial back. If you said, I don't know you. You said I have a strong personality, right? And people feel intimidated. So then I have to come back and say, okay, if I want to get more things done in the organization and not rob myself of my own authenticity, how do I talk to certain people? So here's an example real quick. If you came in my office and you were giggling, in my role, like, I'm already shut down because I need 3 bullets.
Exactly.
What are the 3 bullets? What are we talking about today? So if you're like, hey, I'm like, no. What are we doing? What, are you saving me money? Are you making me more money? Or are you saving me money? And so knowing your audience is going to be extremely important as well. And so the other thing is try and connect with them before the pitch. Try and build relationship, because if you build relationship, people are more open to ideas for people that they truly know. And you can't find someone intimidating that you have taken the time to know. And sometimes we have to take the onus ourselves and be proactive to create that connection. That makes sense?
It doesn't always be that.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you my number. We could talk offline because I love to, when I say that, I'm talking about like a 15-minute talk offline. But I would love, and I say that, no, I'm saying that in all honesty, because I'll have people that'll be like, oh, Uneeka's going to do it. And I'm like, but I'll chat. I want to chat with you because I think I can help you, not in this forum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't need much time anymore with this. Right?
But see, those things, like even that, like that's, I understand now. And so I think we should have a conversation because I get where you're having some challenges. All right. Any other questions? One more. Is that okay? I'll sign fast.
I like the Renee Brown that you had about body. How do you implement that style? That style, like people are so much relevant together, wanting to set style up. That's very tactile.
And so here's the thing: you have to go a mile wide opposed to a mile deep. Like I don't have capacity to go a mile deep with you, a mile deep with you, a mile deep with you. But I do have capacity to go a mile wide, right? So even an email that's actually answering emails, because some people don't. I don't know if they're in this room, but some people don't answer emails. Responding in a way that makes me, feel like you heard what I had to say. That's important. But I'm not going to have, you do not have capacity to be able to give everybody a mile deep. Do you understand? And so that feeling, it only takes seconds. Like when I met her, if I would have been like, listen, I'm a lot of times we run into people that are speaking that are so important that they don't have time to stop and talk and meet and not, and have a conversation with the person. And so had I not, we only met for 30 seconds, if that. She's like, hey, I'm introducing you. I'm like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And then they, did the Miranda Priestley thing of telling me who she was. And so that moment, though, I'm connected to her in that moment. At that moment, I'm not on my phone. At that moment, I'm not trying to take selfies with Lexi like I was in the hallway. I'm focused on that connection at the moment. Does that make sense? And so don't try and spare yourself thin. The other thing is I used to prioritize my connections by the exchange. How much do I need to give and get, right? So if I need something specifically from her, I'm going to go a little deeper with my connection with her than I would from somebody that I'm not going to need anything from. That makes sense? That's it? They're like, they brought in reinforcements. Like everybody's like, first there was one, then it's another one. So thank you.